Hi my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. In this week's painting lesson, I'm going to paint Carrington Hall mountain in Cork. Cork, Kerry, I'm not too sure. It's the highest mountain in Ireland, really. It's a scene from there. Beautiful scene, little walkway, lots of big mountains with snowy covered tops. So something to really get your teeth into with painting. Lots of palette knife work, lots of rough jagged edges on rocks, that kind of thing. So a nice real mountain scene, lots of texture, lots of colour, primarily kind of browns and blacks and greys, those kind of colours. So yeah, something nice and kind of free-handed, something kind of loose for a change, rather than painting, like buildings and sunsets, things like that. So something nice and loose, so you can just grab your palette knife and brushes and just lash on loads of paint. So something nice, but it's going to be really effective, I hope. So I'm painting that for you this week. I have the canvas behind me here, 16 by 12 upright. I primed it once. I have a palette here. I'll stick my colours out here now in just a moment. Also coming on Patreon, if you're one of my patrons, painting clouds, okay? Simplifying clouds. A patron of mine, a very good follower, is looking to learn about painting clouds, nice simple clouds. So tutorial on that coming on my Patreon channel very soon, if you would like to check it out. Thank you so much for your support. Anyway, back to more important matters right now, painting. Grab your brushes and let's crack on and have a bit of fun. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put my colours out on my palette, okay? And I name them out as I'm pulling them out for you. Also, I put them on the description as well, in case you need to see them, all right? Right, titanium white, lots of that. Now, the reference photograph should be there as well. I hope you can see it. Isn't that beautiful? A mountain scene, lots of colours, lots of mauves, pinks. I'm going to use some magenta. I'm starting to really like this colour. It's a beautiful colour. I'm going to need burnt sienna. Even those two colours alone I can see in the photograph immediately. I am also going to use, how about a little touch of alizarin crimson? A little bit of that. I am going to use a little touch of cadmium yellow, but not lots of it, okay? It's just for the light areas in the centre of the mountains, if you can see it there. So a little bit of that. I'm going to use plenty of Naples yellow. I think you probably know by now I use Naples yellow in almost every single painting that I do, because I just love it. It's absolutely beautiful colour. Some black. This is lamp black. Most blacks are very, very similar. If it's a really dark tone that you want, lamp black is perfect, okay? But any of the blacks will do, really. A little bit of phaylo blue. Let me see, what else would I think I might use? I'm just looking at my colours here now beside me. I think that's probably enough, Oh, burnt umber. I will need some burnt umber. Put a little bit of that there. Okay, so we are ready to start. I have some turpentine with a little bit of linseed oil in it. That's my thinners. That's what I use for thinning and for oiling the canvas, that kind of thing. But turpentine on its own is fine. And if you're looking for something that's not as smelly, you can buy a low odour turpentine as well, okay? There's literally no smell off it whatsoever, so it's perfect. Now, I'm just looking for a pencil. Where are all my pencils? They're around here somewhere. Look, I have a couple of small ones here. I can use those. They will do just fine. I'm just going to very quickly sketch out the hill on this, okay? I'm going to go up fairly high now with this. I won't go too high, actually. So if I just go like that, down like that, and kind of comes along and comes off like that. Then this one here, it kind of cuts in front, lots of jaggedy edges. Then it falls down like this. I'm going to just very lightly sketch in the light area. Okay, just like that. You see where the light is hitting that mountain? Just for reference, that's all. Then it swoops down. There's another light area, comes along here like that. And this is another separate bit of a hill. Down here is all rocks. Rocks. Okay? Just like that. I'm just going to... This is what I tend to do. I just sort of fill in the areas. Lots of dark, down there. The footpath, I can't really tell which way it goes. I don't know, does it kind of fall down behind this path here, or does it go left or right? I can't really tell. So it kind of just it stops around here, doesn't it? And we've lots of jagged edges like that. It goes around. I'm going to accentuate the perspective in this, okay? I'm just going to make it a little bit sort of wider to give it more distance, more depth, and a couple of little jaggedy rocks like that, okay? I think that's all we need to do. We can fill in all these areas as we're going along. So a lovely little scene. I think it's pronounced Carrington Hall, or something like that. Carrington Hall Mountain, something like that. It's a very kind of a funny name to pronounce, but Corkonians will know it right away. Let's start painting. I'm going to have a bit of fun with this. I'm going to take a nice medium brush. I don't need a large for this. It's only a small canvas. I have a number 6 flat, okay? Now I'm just making sure this is recording. Yes, it's recording, fine. People were asking me how I'm recording these tutorials. I was using a camcorder all the time, but I'm trying my phone because there's a very good camera on that phone. So it seems to be a little bit better. The camcorder just uses a huge amount of memory. This only uses a gigabyte for an hour-long video, so that's very good, and it's very good quality as well. Let's start. I'm going to take some white. Little bit of thinners, tiny bit of thinners on your brush just to soften it slightly. I don't want to go with very thin layers on this. I want to build up nice thick paint on this. Little bit of white. And I'm going to take a touch of phthalo blue. Tiniest little touch. And a touch of magenta. Now, I appear to have some kind of a mauve in my brush already. I don't know where it came from. I presume the last painting I was doing. But it's helping, okay? Now, let's try this. Okay, now it seems a little bit wet for me, so I'm just going to pull more white into that and a little bit more colour then, okay? A little more phthalo blue and a touch, again, of magenta. I just want a warm blue for this. That's better now. You can see the way that's nice and creamy, you see it? So it's not running down the canvas, but it's not pure paint either. It's just a nice creamy consistency. Pull that all the way along and get this sky in here. It's a lovely sky. I'm going to take some white, pop a little bit of white in over here. And I'm not really using much thinners in this because it's really only a little tiny sky, okay? So I'm just pulling tiny amounts out just to move the paint around, but it's really nice and thick paint, really. Now, if you notice behind that distant mountain, we have snow on top of that mountain, okay? But it's dark against the sky. So I'm putting a nice bright sky in, all right? Nice and bright, side to side, just like that. I don't know if you can see that, I hope you can. I'm going to just add 1 or 2 little clouds. So again, more white, a little bit of blue. I'll take a little touch of magenta. I could go magenta or crimson with this. It doesn't really matter. The magenta just keeps it a little bit warmer. And I might take the tiniest little touch of black, just with the corner of my brush. I just want to dull it down very slightly so it's not so pinky. Do you understand? I take another touch of black with that. You see, I'm pulling tiny amounts in, just tiny amounts. And let's go across here like that. Okay, like that. I mean, you could use a palette knife for this as well and just scrape on some nice clouds if you wanted. I'm going to soften that up and soften it off over there. And I'm going to then go underneath that with another one. Focusing on the bottom of the cloud and then softening it up, okay? So I'm leaving the bottom edge of the cloud. Understand what I mean? Then I'm going to just make it slightly richer. I might try a touch of crimson for a change, and a touch of phthalo, and then maybe a touch of black, just again to add that touch of greyness to the clouds, okay? I don't want them too kind of in your face, too kind of luminous, too pinky or bluey, you know? So I just want to sort of There we go, just like that. Another little bit there. See, just be very, very free with all of this. Let's pop another one up here, okay? I know they kind of come up higher, but let's just kind of make it our own. We don't have to copy the picture exactly. All right, another little bit there. Now, let me just sit back for a moment. I mean, it's only a very loose sky. Most of the emphasis is on the hills, okay? I'm going to darken towards the bottom slightly, only because I want the snow on the mountain to really show out a little bit more, show up on the canvas. If you're painting light against light, it doesn't really work, so you need either a dark colour behind or a dark colour in front, one of the other. And because it's a snow top mountain, I want the sky behind to be slightly darker, okay? I'm going to try phaylo blue, little crimson, and I might even add maybe a bit more blue into this. What I want to do is just get a nice hint of a purple. It's not purple, it's kind of a bluey mauve colour, just along bottom to some of those clouds. Just add a hint of colour to it. Let it soften up and across the back of that hill there. That's even better now, isn't it? A bit down here. And I'm really excited now to get started with these snow-top mountains. It's going to be great fun. A little one there just kind of floating around on its own. Maybe a hint of that up there, okay? Just a hint. Now, I think that's it. I leave it at that. We don't need to do any more to the sky. Just nice and simple. Let's go and do these hills. I'm going to switch brushes. I'll go to this little flat brush first, okay? It's a number 8 flat. And I'm going to move then to another small one. What have we got here? Number 4 as well. In fact, I'll use the number 4 flat, okay? Let's go and use the number 4 flat. Right. This is going to get interesting. Let's start getting some nice warm colours. I can see a little bit of black, and I can see some crimson, and I can see burnt umber as well. I'm going for like a pinky brown kind of a colour, and then I'm going to add into that a little Naples yellow. That will soften it but brighten it as well at the same time. Isn't that a beautiful colour? I'm going to add a little touch of magenta, because these tones, if you can see, there's a lot of pink in these tones. They're very pinky tones. So a bit of magenta or crimson will warm it and give it that little pinky kind of a colour. You see that? That wonderful colour? That's what I want. Sorry, my apologies. I should have stuck this onto the board by fastening it somehow, but what harm? Let's just pop that in. It's so much fun painting scenes like this because you can just really let loose. You know, there's no, you don't have to be very fussy with anything. You can just kind of, now I'm just going to bring that up there just for now. I'll stop there because I want to start adding some nice blues and snowy colours into all of this, okay? What I might do is follow this down a little bit more. So I'm just going to take a touch of turpentine. I'll take some more magenta, some more burnt umber. And because I want it kind of a snowy feel to it, I'm going to maybe add a touch of phaylo blue into this, okay? And then some white. Because, or what you could do is mix phaylo blue with some crimson first, and magenta, and then add a hint of brown. You could do it that way as well. It's just like a browny mauve sort of a colour. You see that? That's what I'm after. This colour, you see this? Beautiful colour. I'm after this kind of a colour. I just want to give it lots of depth, okay? Lots of depth and distance. So adding plenty of white and a touch of blue into any colour like that will give you that wonderful distant colour that you're looking for. Now let's go up here like that. I like that. That's a nice colour, isn't it? And again, I'm really not torn about copying the picture exactly. I just want to kind of make it a nice snowy wintry day up on the hill. You see what I mean? Now I'm going to soften those together just slightly, but not completely, so they're still sort of separate. all right, just a little bit. And I go, now I can see there's a light part in there, so I'll avoid that just for now. I'm going to go with some black, burnt umber, and go around. Just bring that down like so. And it's a really dark colour in there, isn't it? Let's take some black, and I might take a hint of sienna and pop that dark colour in there. I will add some purpley kind of shadows now as well as I'm going, okay? So this is just really sort of an under base coat, if you like, just for something to work on, you know what I mean? And I generally tend to work on dark colours first a lot of the time. Magenta and blue, lots of magenta. I can see lots of magenta in this picture, okay? Lots of magenta. So I'm going with magenta and blue. I'm going to add that nice blue colour up there. And again, you need to be careful with too much blue. If you put too much blue into this brown, you will end up with a sort of a muddy colour. So be careful. Just be careful of that. So add plenty of magenta or crimson. Let's take a bit of the two. And that slightly pinky colour will mix much nicer then. Give it a little bit of a ridge up there. Nice sharp edges. And this really now is something that most people will be able to do, okay? Most of you will be able to do this at home. Just follow me along, take your time. If you need to stop the video and go back, you can. I just have a habit of working quickly. I find when you're working quickly like this and you're not overthinking everything, it works much nicer, okay? It gives you a much more natural feel. If you're going to be, you know, sitting there for 3 hours doing little bits like this at a time, you kind of lose sight of the entire painting as a composition. So I prefer to work kind of fast like this. It just helps, it really does. Now, just soften some of these in here. And notice I'm bringing the brush strokes down in that direction where the hill is falling, okay? That really does help, you see, because you can already start to tell that the hill is kind of coming down like this, you see? So I'm going to move on to that snowy peak up on top. That looks lovely. I really want to get that in. I'm going to take some phaylo blue. Let me just roll my sleeves up here. I don't want to get paint all over myself because I'm a very messy painter sometimes. Phaylo blue, some white, and a little magenta. That's a beautiful colour, isn't it? I think I'll start with that. I'm going to start with that up here. I'll go up and just fill in the mountain top. So we've that filled in, yes. Then I'm going to just soften that nice warm colour down into this colour here, you see, and sort of blend the two of them together, just with the point of your brush, just with the tip of your flat brush, you see. Already it's coming on nicely now, isn't it? Pull that down, and then basically just creating all these little ridges and all that kind of thing. It's really so far away, you're not going to see much. But just to try and give the impression of those little cracks and all that kind of thing up on the ridge. That's what we want to get. A little bit more white. So you can do all of this with a bigger brush. So you don't really need small, tiny little pointy brushes for all of this. I will use that in a moment, but you know, you can get a lot of this done with just a regular flat brush. You don't have to have lots of tiny brushes for all of this. Now, so just get in like that, pull it down. So it's kind of coming down like this, you see. Okay. You see, I'm just letting the brush kind of dance around. So that's okay for now. I'll just switch to a small pointy brush then, all right? Let me find a nice little brush, nice little pointy brush here. It's not very pointy, but it will do. let's take some white and a little of the blue, and I'm going to pop in some of this nice light blue around here and there on the back hook. Okay, I'm really just creating a kind of the impression of all these little ridges coming down, you see. It's just simply little lines. You can go to a lot more detail if you prefer, if that's the way you like to paint. By all means, you know, go crazy with loads of detail. And remember, clean your brush every now and then, okay? It just keeps the colour nice and vibrant, that's all. A couple of little pieces coming down like that. So you see, I'm really just giving the impression, that's all. It's just the impression I'm trying to get. That's all I'm after. Now I can see a bit of darkness up there. That will help give us a nice shadow against the sky. Okay, so just take some of this dark browny colour we have here, and let's go up here and add a little touch of that here and there. Okay, and we'll go up a little bit more. All right, looking okay. Now I hope you're able to follow me along with this all right, I really do. Just take your time with this. I may be going a little bit too quickly for you, as I was saying, but you know, just take your time. I'm going to add a little touch of it just here and there on some of these, just to show a little bit of shadow here and there. And go for a touch of, maybe a touch of black. Add a little bit of black in here and there. So I'm not kind of painting details as such. I'm not trying to paint details. It's just to give it, you know, a bit of interest, I suppose. I'm just going to scrape my brush like that, look. That's sometimes the easiest technique to use. Put your brush on its side and scrape it. Now I'm going to get a little bit of mauve. I'm going to take some magenta with some blue. And I'm going to introduce some of that down here, okay? It's just really to give it some shadow, a bit of a shadow colour. It helps just to lift the shadow a little bit. A little bit more pink. It does kind of lift up the shadows slightly. Now let me sit back and take a quick look at this. Now, not bad so far. Next thing what I'm going to do is take a small palette knife, okay? And I'm going to just kind of soften those together. I'm using the knife on flat, okay? Flat on, and it's just creating, I just want to create a bit of texture in all of this. You see what I mean? Just kind of softening the colours together slightly, and then I'm going to take a hint of white. Okay, hint of white, and I'm just going to scrape a little bit of hint of white onto the hilltop, just here and there, okay? You see, it just gives you a lovely texture. And I don't want to overdo this. I really don't want to overdo the palette knife, because if you overdo it with the palette knife, it makes the mountain come too close to you. You know, you see a lot of mountains done with the palette knife, and they're fantastic, they're beautiful, they really are. But a mountain that could be 10 kilometers away looks like it's just across on the other side of the lake, because there's too much palette knife work on the mountain. Okay, now I'm happy enough with that. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to complicate it, I don't want to overdo it. Just want to keep it nice and simple. Snowy hilltop off in the distance. Let's move on to this one. So we've one done already. Okay. I'm going to start darkening this one. There's a lovely dark spot in the center there, isn't there? I'm going to take some black. I'll take some crimson and a little touch of Naples yellow. I'm just going to darken this down first, and then I'm going to put some nice deep kind of purples into it. Let's get some purple, some phaylo blue, magenta, and a little crimson perhaps. Let's try that. Nice deep, deep purple. Let's add that purple up there. Now, when you're adding purple to a dark colour like this, add plenty of red into the colour, okay? So it's more of a plum. See, that will give you the nice shadowy colour that you want without going mucky. Because what you don't want is mud. So just remember, plenty and plenty of the red, okay? Keep going until you're satisfied. Nice, rich plum kind of a colour here now, okay? There we go, that's what I want. That'll just be a nice little base for me to put my little highlights and shadows and all that kind of thing. Now I'm going to go with some darker colour again, some blue, some crimson, and a little bit of black. And I'm going to put that colour over here. And what I'm trying to do, you see, is I'm trying to think ahead, because I know then when I put my light blues on this, it's going to mix with this colour, this kind of deep purple, and make some really nice hues, lights and darks. So I'm just kind of trying to plan ahead to a certain extent. Now a little bit of black just down in here. It gets really, really dark. So we can have a nice separation then between the light and the dark here, you see. And even a little hint of sienna and burnt umber. A little bit further down. That will help transfer from this mountain to the front here, okay? Just along this line here. That will really help. Now, picking up this little dark spot, okay? Picking up that little shadow there. Again, let's go with some magenta and a hint of blue. And let's just get a nice dark in here for that shadowed area. Look, just around there, and it comes down. Comes down like that and around, you see? Just like that. Now, there we go. I'm happy enough with that. So far so good. My apologies, I touched the camera there when I was just double checking everything looks good. Let's go up now and create some of this nice snowy texture up here. Okay, I think I'll stick with this brush. Sticking with larger brushes, it helps you detach from the little details on the painting and leave your details then until last, you see. Because using the large brush like this, it just gives you a nice rough kind of an edge. Do you understand what I mean? It's nice and rough. Let's just go and look, dab, 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 put a little bit of snow in here and there. You can see lots of it up there. Okay, just give our brush a quick clean, pick up some more. Let's go like that. That's just nice and rough. You know, I'm not painting tiny little details. I'm just letting the brush, the hairs on the tip of the brush, dance around and do all of this, you see. A little bit there. So you kind of get the idea. Again, you could use your palette knife for this, and I probably will put a touch with the palette knife on it, just to give it that little bit of texture, but I won't overdo it. Okay, just like that. Then, I suppose I just grab my palette knife, and we'll go and get some nice colour. White, little phthalo blue. I use phthalo blue for everything because it's such a luminous colour when it's mixed with a bit of white. French ultramarine and cobalt blue are a little bit on the soft side for me when I'm painting snow. I find the phthalo blue, it gives it that beautiful vibrancy, that bit of a kick, especially for this kind of stuff. Now I'm going to go with this nice warm colour that I got here, okay? Warm mauve. And I'm just going to add a touch of that, you see, just here and there. Just letting it dance off of the palette knife, you see? And then you see the little touches of that colour coming down here and there. Just a touch of it here and there. Okay, clean my palette knife again. Always clean your palette knife every now and then. It does help. And there's a little bit coming across here, look. Coming across the hill, that kind of direction. And creating a tiny bit of texture just here and there on the hill itself. And I think that's probably even enough. I don't think I want to overdo this too much for fear of ruining it. You know, there's a very fine balance between stopping, especially with a palette knife like this. It's a very fine balance. Okay, I think I'll just leave it. Now, what I'm going to do next is take my small pointy brush, and I just want to add a little touch of darkness to some of those. So a little bit of black, some thinners in this now, yes, a little bit of brown. In fact, I'll take a little bit of blue, some crimson into that. Blue, crimson and a bit of black, okay? Tiny amounts, look, just tiny, tiny, tiny amounts. You don't have to go crazy with all of this. Now, we have a nice dark colour there. I just want to add just a little bit of darkness here and there to some of them, okay? And the dark parts will lift those light pieces then, you see. It will really lift the highlights much more. I want to separate this hill a little bit more, so I'm just popping a bit of that dark colour. And remember the technique we used earlier? Small brush on its side. Okay, let's try that. Also, I'm doing one-to-one Zoom lessons if you're interested, okay? They're really popular, and we sit down, we do one-to-one for 90 minutes or so, and we talk, we chat, we do a bit of painting, and learn some new techniques along the way. It's really fun. If you're interested, just let me know. The link should be in the description there somewhere. But yeah, days are very flexible, and it's great fun. I was doing group Zoom lessons there for a long time, but it was just very, very difficult when you have a lot of people following at the same time, because some people might fall behind, some people might get impatient. So it was kind of tricky in that sense. But I decided to do it one-to-one instead. I think it just gives you more time to focus on the lesson. So, you know, just think about it. Let me know what you think. They're available. Okay. Let's just have a look at this now. We won't overdo this. We won't go crazy with all of this. Lastly, I'm going to just add one or two small tiny highlights with some white. Just small ones, okay? Just little touches here and there. It's just really to help some of these pop out, okay? Just to help them sort of jump from the canvas a little bit. All right? Okay, let's have a look at that. Sorry, I hit the camera again. I'm going to start putting in this warm colour. I'm really excited to get that warm colour in. It's a beautiful colour, and I'll show you now how I blend these colours together, okay? So, we have a very blacky kind of pinky colour here going on. On the photograph, you see there's a bit of sienna, bit of yellow, that kind of colour, orangey yellows, that kind of colour. So let's start with sienna. I'll take sienna with a hint of magenta first. I'm going to try this, okay? Magenta with sienna. I'll take a little touch of crimson as well, because the red, remember, the red will neutralise any muddiness. Let's just try this for a moment, okay? I'm going to put this colour in first. I'll take a hint of Naples yellow, and the Naples yellow will just give it that sort of chalky, pastel-y kind of a colour, alright? Let's just go around there like that. I'm just being careful not to overdo this. A bit more magenta, I think, will help. That's kind of helping soften the colours together. So a little bit more magenta there, a little bit more there. And you can even bring that colour, then that warm pinky colour, sort of down and out as well, just a little bit, just to help it sort of fall along the other colours, okay? So it's not just one huge patch stuck in the middle of the canvas. You can see hints of it then as it comes down, all right? Let me just take another look at that now. Okay, that's good. Moving on to a more yellowy colour. Clean the brush quickly on some tissue. Let's go with Naples yellow and magenta. Two beautiful colours, okay? If you want a lovely soft yellow, peachy yellow, magenta and Naples yellow is just the most gorgeous colour. It really is. And let's start down here, okay? Let's just put that along up there. It's just the most gorgeous, gorgeous colour. Or even Naples yellow with crimson as well is another beautiful colour. And pop a little bit of that up there. A little bit out just to separate those two hills, just a little bit. I put some over here. Okay. Again, I'm just going to sit up and look at that. Then I'm going to start adding a little touch of cadmium yellow into this. Now, firstly, what I'm going to do is just soften this just a little bit with my soft brush, okay? Just soften it out ever so gently. And then I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with some burnt sienna. And I can see that wonderful rich colour in there on the photograph. It's a beautiful colour. It's almost like an autumn sort of a colour, isn't it? You can see just hints of it there, you see? Just a little bit. And a little bit along the bottom here. I'm being careful with the yellow not to go muddy, okay, or green. I'm just being careful with that. Little hints of it across here and there. And then maybe into that a hint of Naples yellow as well. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to a small brush, and I'm going to do a bit of this with a small brush as well. Take some Naples yellow with cad yellow. And I come up here and add a little bit of that colour as well. Naples yellow, cad yellow. I hope you're enjoying this. This is real fun. I'm really enjoying painting like this. I'm going to get some darks. I am going to take, let me just fix my phone next to me here. I'll take some black with some magenta. I just want to pop a few darks in here and there, okay? It's basically just to pull out that shadow around all of this, okay? Just to deepen it slightly. Try that again. I'll take some blue, some crimson, use some of that. And I'll take a touch more magenta. You notice I pick up a lot more pink when I'm going around by the yellows. I pick up a lot more magenta on the brush, okay? That just keeps the blue, it neutralizes the blue, it stops any greens forming when you're mixing the plum with the yellows. It just stops all of that, really helps. So a little bit more pink into the mix just cancels out any greens, you see. Hope that kind of makes it a bit of sense now to you, but when you try it you'll see what I mean. Okay. Go down here and soften that in just slightly, just slightly. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, again, my palette knife. Alright, let's just get the palette knife. And with the flat edge of the palette knife, let's just soften some of these in, create some texture on this, okay? And I'm going to add some light with the palette knife as well. I'll take a little Naples yellow and a little magenta and a touch of burnt sienna, okay? I don't want this too bright, so I'll just take tiny amounts of these two colours. And I'm just going to go like this. You probably can't see the difference very well from where you are, but it does really make a difference. And a little bit of that colour down here, a little bit there. Okay, I'll stop at that, that's fine. Okay, I'm happy with that. Step back again, take a quick look. All right, that looks nice. I'm going to add a touch of snow to some of this. Again, it just helps to, especially with the composition, it helps to sort of bring the painting together. If you put little touches of that colour elsewhere, it just helps. So even here, for example, look, you can just follow that line down as if there's snow, just little touches of snow here and there as well, forming on some of those little rocks. All right, tiny touches, just little wiggles with the brush, that's all. Okay, I'm happy with that. You see, that's fine. That's all we need. Now I'm going to move on to this really bright colour down here. I'm really looking forward to doing this. I'm going to take lots of Naples yellow, some sienna. I'm going to take a hint of magenta. But there's lots of sienna in this, okay? Now let me just take a look at this first. Not bad. A bit more sienna, sorry. A little bit of turpentine just to thin it out slightly. And let's just go for it. And it's a really nice kind of a loose painting, isn't it? It's something that you can just kind of tip away with, even if you're sitting down at home and you have your little table easel on your lap or something like that. This is something that you can really do in that manner. I'm just pulling that slightly together. You see I'm drawing those two colours ever so slightly together, but not fully, okay? Not completely together. Clean the brush again. Let's go with Naples yellow again, magenta, and even just with that pinky colour, that's a nice colour, go up here and do some of these rocks coming down. And I suppose it's just a case of following this colour right the way down, all the way to the bottom, okay? Just hold my canvas. So we have that colour filled in, nice warm colour. I'm then going to start adding some darks into this. So darks, a dark mauve sort of a colour. I'm going to take some magenta with a hint of burnt umber, and I think a touch of black, okay? Just a tiniest touch of black. And I'm just going to start adding, there's a little bit of a crevice down here, you can see that? A little bit of crevice. And then use that colour, sort of almost creating the shadows from the clouds on the hill. So for example, we could put some over here, just a little touch. It's sort of helping these two colours to merge together, but not completely. Do you understand? Put a little bit of that just around here and there. You could just use your palette knife for this, if you wish. I just like to kind of let my brush dance around on the canvas. Just look, hitting it here and there and pulling it down in that direction. Always remember the direction of the hill, okay? Allow your brush to sort of fall in that direction. So now you can see the movement. Then I want to just soften some of these. Okay, just ever so gently, soften them in. I'm going to darken it up here a little bit. Take a touch of the blacky colour there, that blacky purple colour. Darken this, because I'm going to put some nice little stones up there with my palette knife. So a nice little dark background, soften it down. Okay, let me stand back, take a quick look. Alright, it's not bad. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of black on my brush, and I haven't cleaned my brush at all, okay? I'm just giving it a wipe on some tissue. So it's still picking up little bits of colour from the previous colour. A little bit of black. I'm just going to put a little bit of black down in here just to give that little bit of depth, okay? So you can see it's a very deep kind of a crevice in the hill. Looks quite dangerous. I don't think I'd climb it, to be quite honest. I'm not a very good climber. I'm an artist, I'm more of a painter. Okay, a little bit there, a little bit of blackness there. Okay, next I'm going to get my palette knife. I'm going to try and create some nice light on this with my palette knife. Let's get some Naples yellow, touch of sienna. I really want to create a dramatic light sort of just in the center of this. Tiny touch of magenta with white. And even a hint of cadmium yellow, the tiniest hint, I think, just to give it that little bit of brightness. I'm going to just go and scrape that along, okay? You might not be able to see this completely on camera. It's getting nice and bright. It's just really, I suppose, to create some texture, that's all. Texture on the canvas. Okay. And we can come back to this, if we so wish. Alright? I just really want to get a very bright area in the centre of this. A little bit of yellow with some white, okay? It really does kind of jump out the centre of this. That colour. Now I picked up a bit of black on my palette knife there by accident. Just scrape that off. And we go over that with some Naples yellow and some cadmium yellow, okay? And that does happen all the time, don't worry. It's a regular occurrence. Put a little bit of shadow through that. And we can just use it to create some rough texture on the hill. Okay. Now, I'm not happy with that. You see, this channel is really, it's just back-to-back painting. There's no editing on this, none of that kind of stuff. It's in real time. And I like to show you about fixing mistakes and all that kind of stuff as we go, okay? I like to be real. There. Yeah, fixed. Wasn't that bad, was it? Right, I have some nice rock up here. Let's create some nice rock. I'll take some titanium white, magenta, a little burnt umber, touch of black. Okay, so these are very pinky rocks. Some Naples yellow as well. It's a very light pinky grey kind of a rock up here. Let's just pull some of those down like so. And this is just a standard palette knife technique, okay? You've probably seen this done hundreds of times by lots of other artists. Now I'll take some white and a hint of blue. And I'll add a touch of that colour just here and there, some of those rocks. Remember, clean your knife every now and then, okay? Don't forget to clean your knife. And that's it, that's fine. Absolutely fine. I will just soften them down a bit into this, just to carry it on, okay? Just to give the impression that they're carrying on, sort of disappearing into the ground. And this is coming on nicely, isn't it? Let's move on, and get in, I think, this big patch of rock here. And I think I'll call that part 1 finished, because it's a long video, okay? I hope you don't mind. I will come back in a day or so and finish it. Some black, magenta, hint of burnt umber, and hint of Naples yellow, perhaps even a hint of crimson. Very dark muddy grey, okay? That's really just for the dark sides of all these rocks. I tend to kind of paint the entire dark colour and then put in the highlights afterwards. Does that make sense? So filling in this nice area here, nice and dark. Okay, like so. And we could even put in a few of the darks across here as well. Take a bit of burnt umber into that. Because there is a lot of brown in this picture, if you look. There's lots and lots of brown in there. I'll even pop a little bit of the brown here and there too, just through some of those rocks. Now, I'm going to use my palette knife for this next stage. I might go with this palette knife for a change, okay? Let's mix that nice bright grey colour again. I'm going to take some titanium white, a little bit of magenta, a little bit of burnt umber, and you can see it's a very pinky grey, isn't it? There's a lot of pink in this grey. Little touch of phaylo blue, the tiniest little touch. Let's just mix that up. You don't have to mix it completely, okay? Now, let's just take some of that on our knife, okay? A little bit of that on the back of our knives, and let's just go like that, you see? Just keeping it simple. Just try to have fun, okay? Just try to keep it simple, have a bit of fun with it. You know, I will be adding lots of little lights and darks into this, okay? This is really just to get the main section of the rocks in. Do you understand? So let's just sit back now and take a look at that. Yep, not bad. Now I'm going to move to my smaller brush and start forming the rocks with my small brush, okay? I'm going to take some black and plenty of turpentine in this. I go with a hint of magenta with the black just to warm it, okay? So you have kind of a shadowy black then. And let's just pick out all these lovely dark rocks, okay? And I'm painting in the shadows of all of these. I'm going over all of these now with the shadows. Just to try and help kind of bring them to life. Really nice strong dark shadows will bring a painting to life. I take some phthalo blue and some magenta, a little bit of crimson and some black. That'll give me a nice purpley shadow, okay? A rich purpley kind of a shadow. And let's just go and pop that in. And keep cleaning your brush, all right? That's very important. You have to keep cleaning your brush to keep your brush nice and clean. And you can see then it's just sort of, it picks up those little bits of that lighter colour here and there, and it makes lighter tones and darker tones, and it just makes it a lovely combination of colours. Perhaps even a bit of burnt umber into this as well. And I will put in some kind of very rich black then at the last minute, just making it very dark, getting some really dark shadows in from some of those rocks. Okay, now let's go with the really black ones. Just black on its own, nothing else. You could maybe add a little touch of burnt umber as well if you wanted. The burnt umber just helping to keep it warm, all right? That's all. I'm putting on lots of thick paint here. You see it? Look, just lots of thick paint on its own. It's tremendous fun, this type of painting. It really is. It's a lot of fun. It's just very free, and you know, you can do so much with so little effort, you see. It's just really a case of try to simplify it, just make it fun for yourself. If you're not enjoying it, there's no point in doing it for me. You know, I have to be enjoying what I do. So let me just stand back now and take a quick look at this. Now I'm going to add some sort of warm areas into this rock. Okay, just a few little warm areas. I'm going to take some sienna and some magenta. And I feel it just needs to be warmed up slightly. A little bit of Naples yellow. And you can see we have a beautiful warm colour there. I'm just going to start popping that in just here and there, you see. It's just like little dots of colour, and it'll warm the overall scene then. Understand what I mean? It will warm everything up. Maybe a hint of crimson. Make a nice little pinky colour there. Take some sienna with a touch of yellow. A lovely autumn sort of a colour. I'm going to pop little touches of that colour in here and there. I'm really just moving the brush around, sort of just letting the brush dance around, that's all. See what I mean? I'm going to take a nice bright colour. I'll go with Naples yellow and a hint of white, okay? And I'm just going to really bounce some highlights off of some of these. Just to really give it some highlight. Okay, that's all. And I don't feel I need to go any further with this. I don't want to ruin it. Just a handful of little rocks here and there. And then finally, just to sort of help all this, you know, almost soften together slightly, I'm just going to use the palette knife, okay? I just don't want too many sharp edges of paint. Okay, see what I mean? I just want to sort of let some of them fall into one another. Okay, and I think that's enough. I think that's all I need to do. So that's it, my friends. Part 1 is finished. There we go. And my phone has started to fall again. Keeps happening, I don't know why. My phone just keeps starting to fall slightly. I think it's this mount. Let me zoom in and show you what we have done. Nice, simple, distant hills. Nice snow. I like the snow. I'm quite happy with the snow. And you can see it was just a series of little marks with the brush and the knife. Try to keep it simple, okay? Now, we fix this exposure. It's gone all over the place. And there we are, my friends. Done. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back very, very soon with part 2. Let me just see, get a chance turning this around so you can see me. I'm half afraid. I'll have to buy some proper mounts for this thing. It's really very bad setup. I should know better, shouldn't I? Thank you so much. I'll see you very soon for part 2. Let me know what you think, and happy painting. Try and keep it simple.